Welcome to a very exciting week for Dan Really Likes Wine. We started this show at the end of 2016 after I got bullied into making it by my friend Michael Jordan, and I'm very glad he did bully me into making it because I've had a huge amount of fun on the journey with wine since then. But we take an important step forward this week as Pick n Pay join us as presenting sponsor of the show, a brand, a company that does a huge amount for wine in South Africa, showcasing wine from entry level through to top end and encouraging more people to be able to access better wine, a wider range of wine and at better prices. So it's a partnership I'm really excited with. Now, it doesn't mean that every wine you now see on Dan Really Likes Wine is going to be available at Pick n Pay. There's just far too much wine for that to happen. But the online space is a great spot to go shopping, to broaden your wine collection, or just to get a bit of a feel for what is out there. It's also an important week because, in partnership with Pick n Pay, I'm going to be down in Cape Town this weekend, joining my good friend Mike Radcliffe, previously of Warwick fame, now focused on both his work at Villafonte and his work as chairman of Stellenbosch Wine Routes at the Stellenbosch Wine Festival. That's happening at the North Wharf at the V A Waterfront this Saturday and Sunday, and it promises to be a massive celebration of Stellenbosch wine. There are almost 40 estates are going to be exhibiting. They'll be showcasing some of their finest wine, and a lot of names you'll be extremely familiar with. They are some of the iconic labels, some of the iconic states of South African wine. So what I decided to do today in celebration of the festival, which I'll be hosting some of the tastings and making my way around, enjoying the celebration as much as everybody else, is have a look at some of the wine that will be there, some of the estates. And I'm kicking off with one of the big guns. This is Thelema, and this is their Sauvignon Blanc. Now, I was at Thelema about a week or two ago, caught up there the final weekend of the Absa Cape Epic, terrific race as always, and I dropped in on the Saturday afternoon on Thelema. I was looking for some Stellenbosch 2015 Cabernet Sauvignon, and Thelema was one of many estates at which I could find none, but I was able to find this, and it's a wine I drank under the trees, great company, it's very relaxed, very shady. You go just past Takara, down the road, down through the vineyards. The views are fantastic, especially at this time of year, and into Thelema itself. They've got quite a wide range. You might know their Sutherland range. That's the one tier down from their top-end Thelema range, and their wines for a number of years now have been garnering a great deal of support, of interest, and of acclaim, and this is one of them. And this is a Sauvignon Blanc that's actually done fairly well in the eyes of the critics, and a week or two ago it tasted pretty good under the trees in Stellenbosch. Will it change inside the Dan Really Likes Wine cellar? Well, unlikely. But a couple of key things before I drink it, and the biggest one of all, and it's a drum I have beaten repeatedly of late and probably will do for some time to come, and that is the temperature. Sauvignon Blanc, you go around, somebody offers you a glass, oh, Sauvignon Blanc, I'd love some, it's a really hot day, and you get this glass that a penguin wouldn't swim in. It can't be that cold because you just lose so much of the beauty of a particular wine. So this is certainly very cool, but it's not icy, it's not freezing, it's a temperature that I think is perfect for Sauvignon Blanc. It's cold enough to enjoy, but not that cold that it mutes some of the notes and some of the beauty of a wine that a very gifted winemaker has spent a lot of time creating. Now, the worry with Sauvignon Blanc, often with a lot of people, it's going to be too acidic, it's going to be too green, it's really going to be harsh on my palate. And it's not an unfounded worry because you do get that from time to time. But that's not a worry you have there. There's a little bit of acid to it, but it's not that washing over your palate and threatening to strip down the inside of your mouth acid. It's just a component of what's a very well-rounded Sauvignon Blanc. It's incredibly crisp. There's a lovely freshness coming through with it. And there's also a depth. Sometimes I find Sauvignon Blanc can be a little bit narrow. There's not as much of an expression of the grape as you'd like. Again, not the case here. I think I might have found my opening wine for this Saturday at the Stellenbosch Wine Festival. From a Sauvignon Blanc to a partial Sauvignon Blanc. It's a white blend, and not the white blend you might be expecting with a Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc normally you see in partnership with Semillon, the type of blend that's very often served up at a restaurant as a recommendation with some seafood. This has got the Sauvignon in, but instead it's got Chenin Blanc, and it's not something I've seen an awful lot of, but I'm really interested to see what it's like, particularly because of the estate and the components that make up this blend. You might see Stellenrust, and you're trying to think, Stellenrust, that doesn't sound familiar. I don't think I've been to that estate. Well, you wouldn't have, because Stellenrust doesn't exist as an estate, but Stellenrust does, and Stellenrust is from its slightly lower tier wine, and it's made up of Chenin and Sauvignon from an estate that has in recent times seen the barrel fermented Chenin get 5 stars from Mr. Platter and team, and the Sauvignon get 4.5. Again, barrel fermented. So very much grapes at the higher end. They've got some old vine grapes out there. So you know that the terroir suits these particular grapes. They've made some great stuff with them. But with this being a more entry-level wine and with these coming together, the end result might not be the 5-star and 4.5-star components, but there's only one way to find out whether or not that is the case. Now, I like the idea of this blend. The Chenin should offer a little bit more texture, a little bit more mouth. The crispness of the Sauvignon Blanc, they could come together quite nicely. Of course, it could also be disastrous, but I suspect probably not. Certainly more of the Sauvignon on the nose, quite sharpish. It's definitely quirky, not in the normal derogatory sense, but just that it's genuinely interesting. It's an unusual blend to have the Sauvignon Blanc and the Chenin together, and you can sense it is something unusual on the palate. There's a freshness to it. The collision of the two wines means it's got quite a bold mouthfeel to it. It's clearly a wine, though, that works, because if you look on the back of the label, you'll see this is being shipped off to amongst other places, Finland and Belgium. So if you are Finnish or Belgian and you live in Cape Town, come along to the Stellenbosch Wine Festival this weekend, and you can find something your country people like to drink. A couple of whites done, on to some reds, and the wine that, as good as a lot of Stellenbosch white is, the area is probably most celebrated for, and especially recently there have been a few red vintages in Stellenbosch that have been even more world-class than they usually are, and L'Avenir is an estate that historically has made some very nice red. This is the L'Avenir Stellenbosch Classic, so they make it pretty clear where the wine is from and celebrate the heritage of their area. And straight away, it's a beautiful colour and such an appealing nose. That deep, rich, very ever so slightly smoky. Pull out your slippers, put on your velvet dressing gown, light a cigar, sit beside the fire type of nose. And it's not a massively expensive wine, but as you can see, a couple of awards labelled on it, and another one that's going to be available to taste this weekend. I like that. So what you're getting on the nose is extending into the mouthfeel. It's not quite so pronounced, but it's a nice juicy red. You can sense that it's probably got a few more years in it just to develop a little more. At 2016, it's a little on the young side, but I think it does the Stellenbosch Classic title justice. It's nice and rich, it's nice and fruity. And this has got late afternoon at the festival written all over it. And then to one of the grand old aristocrats of Stellenbosch wine, Alto, currently under the guiding hand of Berto van der Westhuizen, who could be playing professional rugby. He's about 3 times my size, but instead uses some very skilled hands in the art of winemaking instead of throwing a rugby ball around and handing off smaller than him at people. The Alto Rouge is consistently one of the best value wines in South Africa. It's a red blend that could probably sell for a lot more if the guys wanted to push it up, but it sits at a very accessible price point, especially for what it is. And the Alto Rouge is the headliner. You sometimes forget that they make some great wine alongside of it. Their Cabernet Sauvignon, especially their 2015, is drinking beautifully. I've had a few tastings of it. And there is the Shiraz. Now, a lot of Shiraz we're drinking at the moment in South Africa, particularly from the slightly newer, the less entrenched areas, from places like the Elgin region or out on the west coast, is more that Syrah style. It's very much the lighter wine. I think a lot of it's beautiful. It's very soft, it's very understated, and it brings together a beautiful Rhone style of Syrah. But sometimes you do want that big punchy, in-your-face Shiraz that's just full of meat and muscle, especially if you're throwing down a large chunk of steak. And if I have a ribeye at home, which I don't do quite as much as I used to, now that I'm trying to be slimmer and trimmer, but which still finds its way through my kitchen a couple of times a month, then I want a nice big bottle of red to go with it. And this Shiraz is an ideal example. It's one you can try for yourself again this weekend because the Alto team will be out at the festival. This is the 2016 Shiraz, so same vintage as the Lavanier that I have just tasted. 2016 faces a few challenges because 2015 was so good, so unbelievable, so put your children on sale on the internet and use the money to buy 2015 cab. It was that good that 2016 has a lot to live up to. But while it might not, from the cab I've had so far, be quite at the same level at some of the estates, it's still a really good vintage of some really good wine. And this 2016, certainly the nose already attests to exactly that. The colour again, just that really rich, strong, deep, deep purple. Great for a band name, even better for a wine. And again, that is lovely. It's a big, rounded, strong red wine. In Shiraz, you often talk of those spicy notes. It's not a mouthful of masala, but it does have that little bit of feel on the palate of a touch of spice, just a little bit of spike, but it's on a very smooth bed of lovely, lovely Stellenbosch red. And it's the kind of red that speaks to exactly what Stellenbosch is so famous and celebrated for, and the type of red that Alto has been making so well for so long. We've had 5 winemakers in the last 2,000 years, and they all seem to be able to take advantage of the terroir quite beautifully. Here is just another in a long line of examples. So all of these wines I've liked. I think that Sauvignon Blanc in particular was a lot less acidic and a lot less green than many I've tried. But you can make your own mind up, and that is the beauty of wine. What I like, you might not, and neither of us are wrong. We're both absolutely right. If you like it, it's a good wine. If you don't, it's a bad wine. It's a philosophy we love at Dan Really Likes Wine, and it's a philosophy we'll be carrying on through our partnership with Pick n Pay, and a philosophy you'll find in play at the Stellenbosch Wine Festival at the North Wharf at the waterfront this weekend. Tickets, 150 Rand a day. Kids are welcome Saturday and Sunday. Gates open at 12 o'clock. There's music, there's food, and you can upgrade to a ticket to 180 Rand if you want to get hold of one, and that will allow you to enter the tasting rooms as well. You'll get a wine glass complimentary and 20 tasting tokens. You can taste 20 different wines from across the range. There'll be music playing. Web tickets is where you get your tickets, so nip across to Web Tickets. Get them, there are only a few left, Saturday and Sunday. The wine looks forward to seeing you there. I look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a terrific celebration of South Africa's oldest and most celebrated winemaking region. Cheers.